Welcome back to Banging the Can, the Houston sports show that does not apologize for championship rings and tings, presented by Bolin Media. I am your host, Ross Bolin, and we have officially made it to the All-Star break, Astros fans. But before we get into evaluating the Astros season at the 91-game mark, I have an important announcement. Listen up. We are opening the Banging the Can hotline. Finally, the number is 888-203-2339. You will hear me on a voicemail, then a beep. Then you have 2 minutes, 120 seconds to share your take or ask a question before you are cut off. 2-minute limit. So be succinct, be clear, have your windows rolled up. Don't be in an elevator. I will choose calls from the hotline to play on the show and respond to starting as soon as next week. So call 888-203-2339 with your takes and questions anytime. And if you make the cut, you will hear yourself on the show once again. That is 888-203-2339. All right, with 71 games remaining in the regular season, the Houston Astros arrive at the All-Star break with a record of 50 wins and 41 losses, 2 games back of the division-leading Arlington Rangers. After taking 3 of 4 games against the Rangers and both games against the Rockies, the Astros stumbled into the break, losing 3 of 4 against the Seattle Mariners and blowing a chance to tie or take the division lead. It has been, inarguably, a strange and at times frustrating season so far. Losing Luis Garcia and Lance McCullers Jr. for the season, plus Jose Urquidy until at least the end of July, really put our pitching staff in an extremely fluid and awkward situation, the likes of which we haven't seen in many years as Astros fans. It is extremely difficult to win consistently in Major League Baseball without solid starting pitching. That is no secret. So it's been tough sledding, losing 3 starting pitchers from the rotation. It should go without saying. Now, guys like J.P. France and Brandon Bielak have stepped up and filled the gaps pretty admirably. I'm finally getting used to seeing either of those guys, either France or Bielak, step out onto the mound without being filled with dread, mostly because they serve as a reminder of who we lost. So big props to France and Bielak for holding down the fort. Christian Javier, despite his record of 7-1, has been shaky basically all season so far. He's just gotten a ton of run support, just been kind of lucky in that regard. It's funny, but your record as a starting pitcher doesn't always indicate exactly how well you are pitching. I'm not really sure what Javier's deal is. His shit has just looked like more flat, more hittable than it did at any point really last season. Hopefully the break does him some good. Hunter Brown has been consistently mediocre, I would say. He certainly hasn't stepped up to be like the next Justin Verlander with an ERA of 4.12 and a record of 6-6. If we want to win another World Series, we want to see Hunter Brown take the next step in the back half of this season. I'm not sure we could get it done without him being maybe not an ace. We don't need him to be Framber, but we do need him to be better than he has been so far, probably. So the reality is that Framber Valdez is our only real ace. Thank God for Framber. Framber forever. He truly is the franchise now. Pitching is the one thing you really, really expect to see General Manager Dana Brown improve before the trade deadline. It'll be very interesting to see what he is willing to give up and who he is going to go after, right? I, for one, am scared that they will sell Chas McCormick in exchange for an arm, because he's been so good this season, Chaz, that they might look at him and say, look, this guy's value is never going to be higher. I would much prefer they move Jake Myers if we have to give up an outfielder, and that's no offense to Jake. I just prefer Chaz get that starting spot, which has been like this back and forth thing all season long. And I think I'm in the same boat as the majority of Astros fans at this point who want to see Chaz as the perennial starter. But they have to get another arm. Or as we saw during the first half of the season, they're going to have to rely too heavily on the bullpen, and the bullpen will get burnt out. Speaking of the bullpen, Ryan Presley has been the most reliable option out of the pen once again. Brian Abreu has been good overall, but he has shown more shakiness than we have come to expect from him, I would say. Phil Matone was nails for a while, but he's stumbled a bit as of late. Hector Neris has been solid. We all know Rafael Montero needs to come back after the All-Star break with a new head on his shoulders, as he has been an absolute mess so far. But all in all, the bullpen has held it down. If someone told you about all the health issues we would have on the mound this season, you would be happy with 50 wins at this point. And that's where we're at. So you have to consider that. But it hasn't just been a bizarre season on the mound. A slew of injuries have hampered the offense as well. These numbers are kind of shocking. Altuve has only played 32 games. Yordan Alvarez has played 57. And of course, Michael Brantley has missed all of the action completely, has not seen any playing time. Altuve and Alvarez should both be back by the end of this month, though, by the end of July, with Yordan acknowledging yesterday that the current plan is for him to do a minor league stint for a couple of games after the All-Star break. Then he will rejoin the team. Obviously, that's huge. This dude is the heart and soul of our offense. He is the one guy on the team that you can say comfortably is dangerous every single time he steps up to the plate. Who the fuck knows what's going to happen with Michael Brantley? That signing has paid zero dividends so far and really serves as another black mark on the general managerless era we endured after winning the World Series. I think history will show that to be one of the strangest periods in the history of our franchise, because it was such a successful season. Like, the ultimate goal was achieved. We got another ring. We brought home another trophy. Then we fired our general manager. Then we operated without one for a while, with like Jeff Bagwell and Jim Crane kind of serving as the de facto interim general manager, which is obviously when we handed out some contracts that so far have looked a little weird, including Michael Brantley, including Rafael Montero, and Christian Javier, I think, is the only pitcher we ended up extending, where we left, Framber, Kyle Tucker. Neither of those guys got new contracts. So that was a weird period of time that so far just has gotten weirder as a result of the way things have shaken out so far in 2023. Fortunately, Jose Abreu has started looking like Jose Abreu again, and the better he can be with the bat, the better off we will be as a team when shit really matters down the stretch. Also should go without saying. Again, for as frustrating as this season has been, the Astros sit 2 games back of the Rangers with hopes to spend the last 71 games of the season in a much healthier spot roster-wise. I have trouble imagining a world where we don't make the postseason. Obviously, it could happen, but with the way these first 91 games have gone, I think we will be there. This has been, like, from a roster standpoint, it has been tough. Not worst case scenario, but a very challenging season in terms of health, in terms of consistency to the starting lineup, in terms of starting pitching. And we all know baseball is about catching fire at the right time and maintaining momentum through October. We've seen how a good team, how good a team can be and still end up not winning the World Series because they ran into someone that was just hotter at the right time. 2019 will always hurt for that reason. I think among Astros fans, by and large, that is considered to be perhaps the greatest roster we have ever had as a franchise, 2019. Just an unbelievable team from top to bottom, and we didn't get the job done. But this Astros team this year has proven they are very scrappy, that they have a bunch of guys beyond the obvious all-stars who are able to contribute on both sides of the ball, and if things shake out correctly, there is no reason to believe we can't be a contender for another title. Now, we need things to shake out correctly, though. That means a healthy Yordan Alvarez and Jose Altuve and Kyle Tucker, perhaps most importantly. That means an offensively potent Jose Abreu. That means Alex Bregman being dangerous at the plate, which we've seen flashes of so far, but not a lot of consistency from Bregs. That means figuring out how we're going to utilize Mauricio Dubon when the team is healthy, when Altuve is healthy, when everybody's healthy, hopefully. Finding another arm to bolster the pitching rotation before the trade deadline, starting Chas McCormick and stopping the outfielder carousel we're currently all sick of riding. figuring out how to get Rafael Montero's confidence back so the entire fan base doesn't collectively groan when he's put in the game. And then like seeing Christian Javier, look like an ace again would help. That would be nice. Dusty Baker and Dana Brown certainly have their work cut out for them, but as much as we all wanted to hit the panic button at so many moments over the course of the first 91 games, you really have to salute the squad for keeping their shit together enough to sit where they sit. 2 games back, still in the hunt, looking as dangerous as maybe ever offensively, regardless of all the shakeups in the lineup through stretches, and persevering through an injury-stained and strangely frustrating first half of the season. The last thing I'll say about the Astros today is consistency on the offensive side of the ball has continued to be a problem. We've gone through these 2-week stretches where we're putting up an average of like 8 to 10 runs a game, breaking the whole 10-run curse that we all came to know and hate over the course of the last season and a half. And yet we go through stretches where for an entire series like this one against the Mariners, we are flat. We're not doing jack shit with the bats. It's a thing that we saw last year. It's a thing I've talked about on this show many times. Last year it obviously shook out, but consistency, if we can become consistently the most threatening offensive team in baseball, then some of these pitching issues that we're seeing will fall by the wayside. And it's happening in spurts. That's why you see Christian Javier with the 7-1 record that he has. I mean, he hasn't thrown particularly well. He's getting hit a lot. We're just putting up an insane amount of run support every time he's on the mound for whatever reason. That's just the way it's gone so far. But yeah, to see some more consistency on the offensive side of the ball would be a breath of fresh air in the second half of the season. Today's episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. One thing about Houston that you better make peace with if you want to survive it is fucking hot in the summer, and if you don't dress accordingly, you will die accordingly. Bird Dogs will have you looking good and feeling good all summer long in the most comfortable and versatile shorts, pants, and bathing suits in the entire world. So breathable, so great for the summer heat. I've been wearing them for several years now. They cannot be beaten. I wear them to sleep, to do yard work, to work out, to go swimming, to play golf, to go out to dinner sometimes. Wear them to do everything. They fit great. They feel great. They look great. Tons of designs and colors and variations as well. They've all got funny names, each design. They've got the tight wads, the forest pumps, the art fart knockers, Coach Cockburns. Those are just a handful of the pairs that I have. I have an entire drawer in my room that is just like 15 pairs of Bird Dogs that I've accumulated over the last few years. If you want to look great and feel great while you're at the gym this season or swimming at the neighborhood pool or out at the bars taking in those Houston summer nights, Bird Dogs are the move, my friend. If you want to look like money while you're working out in the yard or swimming, Bird Dogs, Bird Dogs, Bird Dogs. And their pants are great for the golf course as well. They look really sharp, but you'll be incredibly comfortable and they're incredibly breathable and no one will even know that you are that much cooler than them in your Bird Dogs pants. So click on the link in the description below to go to birddogs.com and enter code BTC at checkout to support our show, and they will throw in a free Yeti-style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com, code BTC to make sure you look good and feel good all summer long, and you will get that free Yeti-style tumbler with every order. birddogs.com, code BTC. I hope everyone enjoys the All-Star game tonight. I completely missed the home run derby. Honestly, didn't even know it was happening yesterday. Like they just do such a bad job of advertising the MLB All-Star break. It just I obviously knew it was coming, but I did not see a single thing to remind me that the home run derby was occurring yesterday. Maybe it's that they don't do social media as well or something. I'm not sure. No idea who won. Don't really care. Should be fun to watch Kyle Tucker tonight. And I guess our entire coaching staff will be there with Dusty Baker managing the AL squad. But obviously, no Yordan Alvarez, no Framber Valdez, our two other All-Stars for the Astros. So I would be lying if I said I was like super excited. I'll probably turn it on, as background noise and pass out in the sixth inning. The NBA remains the only All-Star weekend that I have any real interest in, mostly because I thoroughly enjoy the three-point contest, and some years the dunk contest. We all know that can be a big bust too. But the NBA All-Star game itself, not particularly riveting to me, similarly to the Major League Baseball All-Star Game. But speaking of the NBA, for the first time ever this upcoming season, there will be an in-season tournament. It's basically styled after like European soccer tournaments mostly. It has to be the most ambitious and risky move the NBA has made, perhaps in my lifetime. All 30 teams will participate and get drawn into 6 groups of 5 teams that are split up by conference, okay? So basically, the Rockets are in West Group B. Okay, there are 6 groups. We are in West Group B with the Denver Nuggets, Los Angeles Clippers, New Orleans Pelicans, and the Dallas Mavericks, all right? Each team will play one game against the other teams in their group, right? Like World Cup style. The 6 group winners will make the quarterfinals, as will the best 2 second-place teams from the groups. So the best 2 second-place teams in terms of record, and then tournament games, so all of the tournament games, minus the championship game, all count in the standings, which is one of the strange things about this. Like, it's one of the ways they're trying to incentivize teams to take it seriously. That, and then some prize money. There's like $500,000 to each player on the team that wins or something like that. There's like a good amount of money. I think it's $18 million in the pool altogether. But again, this is an important aspect of it. The games in this tournament do count toward your record, except for the championship game. So it runs basically the same way the WNBA runs their Commissioner's Cup, apparently, which I didn't know existed until I was researching this NBA in-season tournament thing. The quarterfinals will occur on December 4th and 5th. The semifinals will occur on December 7th, and then the championship game on December 9th. Whoever wins this thing gets this new trophy that got unveiled at the, I think maybe the NBA draft is when they unveiled it. It's called the NBA Cup, all right? And one of the things that the NBA has openly acknowledged about this play-in tournament is that not everyone is going to buy in right away. The big difference between this and like what they have in the European soccer leagues, those tournaments have gone on for hundreds of years or whatever, 100 years. So they got massive history to them. There's prestige behind winning these tournaments. That is obviously not the case here. This thing is brand new. It is going to take time for people to buy into it. It's going to take time for interest to build. Most of us are probably going to forget it's even going to occur until November rolls around and we are reminded. And then we'll be like, what the fuck is this? It's going to be mildly annoying to a lot of NBA purists, especially boomers who are used to seeing their season unfold a certain way. And this is throwing like a big pause in the middle of it, but also counting toward what occurs in terms of playoff seeding, minus the championship game, which is just kind of funny. And then, yeah, it gives, there's something else to be won in the season, right? So it's not just the NBA Finals anymore where one team hoists a trophy at the end of the year. Now, technically, there will be 2 teams. And it gives you this look mid-season, sort of, about in terms of how good each team really is in a hyper-competitive tournament elimination style environment. So I think it will be cool in some ways. I really don't know what to make of it yet. Like, until we watch one actually unfold and see what the vibes are like and see what the intensity is like. Because, like, look, everybody knows playoff basketball, the atmosphere is so much more intense than the regular season. It's one of the things that makes it so much fun to watch. Everything is so much more competitive. It's essentially the opposite of the All-Star game where there is no defense played. Everybody is all out the entire time. If they can get something that even comes close to emulating playoff basketball with this play-in tournament, I think it could be really fun. If it ends up feeling like we're just watching a bunch of regular season games and then there's a championship and then we move back on to the regularly scheduled programming, that will be a bummer. And I wouldn't be shocked if that's the way it feels year one. But as this thing goes on, this is a long play by the NBA. 30 years from now, when there's a bunch of history behind the play-in tournament, and there's a bunch of narratives that can be spun around it, then they'll have a stew going. But until then, it's a risk. It's a new thing. We're all just going to have to wait and see how it goes. I think for teams that don't feel like they have a real shot at a championship, they might take the play-in tournament really seriously because there is a chance for them to win something. On the other hand, there's tiers in the NBA, right? There's always like, a maximum of a handful of teams each year that you really genuinely believe could compete for the championship. That's still going to be the case in the play-in tournament where the 25 other teams are like, I guess it's can you get up one game and knock out the Denver Nuggets if you're the Rockets? Is that the question? Maybe that's the motivation. It's an opportunity to, put a damper on some of these championship caliber teams, even if you're not one of them in this play-in tournament. But I really don't know. I mean, in terms of business strategy, like the business behind it, you can see how it provides for even more sponsorships. You can see how it provides for the opportunity to get larger viewership, where regular season basketball obviously is not watched at nearly the same clip as postseason basketball. Maybe the play-in tournament will bring this like injection of viewership for the NBA into something besides the playoffs and the finals. That is all possible in theory. But again, we'll just have to wait and see. Like it's a kind of a European concept to insert into our mostly American basketball brains. Not that the NBA isn't a global league as it likes to see itself. It is. It is very much a global league. There are a shitload of players that are not American all over the place at this point. More and more and more with every passing year, we see European players. We see guys like Jokic, obviously not an American. There's a ton. Giannis Antetokounmpo. A lot of the best players in the league are not American, and in that way, the league has become much, much more global than it was in, say, the 80s or 90s, for sure, inarguably. But I don't know if incorporating this sort of like, will people see it as meaningless? That's the question. Is everybody going to look at the play-in tournament and the NBA Cup as kind of a joke? And the likelihood is yes, the first year or first few years. But again, to reiterate, and they've been open about this, and I think it's important that they're being transparent here. It's not like they're just like putting on a brave face and lying to all of us and saying like, no, we think everyone's going to take this super seriously round one. They're admitting this is a long play. It's going to have to build up over the years before it's taken as seriously as they want it to be taken. And in terms of audience share and what kind of numbers they're able to do, we'll have to wait and see too. I don't know. Like the big problem obviously becomes that if there's, let's say, 15 teams that aren't really competitive, that aren't seen as contenders, are those teams, are their fans going to tune in for the play-in tournament just to see them get smacked? Like, I just don't know. I don't know it's weird. The grouping thing is weird. Everything about it is going to be a little bit different. It's not something that we, as American sports fans, in terms of the NBA, MLB, NFL, like nothing like this exists in our big four, even with hockey. They don't have anything like this. So it's a big swing and a bold one. And I mean, I think you have to commend them for doing something to add some additional new, novel excitement to NBA basketball. But this could be like a legacy-defining thing for Adam Silver, and I'm not sure if he knows that. I think certainly anybody who's heavily invested in the NBA has seen him go from sort of like this shining star of commissioners to really run-of-the-mill. And the way he's handled some of these things, from the China controversy with Daryl Morey to like the Ja Morant stuff, to he hasn't been quite as good as I think a lot of us thought he was over those first several months to a year or whatever. He handled some things really well. He put himself in a good spot. This is a big, big swing that probably will define his legacy. As it has been reported, they've apparently talked about doing something like this for roughly 15 years. So they're finally executing on it. If it does totally fizzle out and become a disaster, it's obviously not going to look good for him. But I'd say it's like a 50-50 shot right now in terms of how this thing ages, in terms of how we feel about the play-in tournament in 10 years, 20 years. Who knows? Anybody's guess is as good as mine. But it is going to be weird, for sure. Albeit it is something new and exciting to look forward to that we've never done before as NBA fans. And as a huge, huge fan of the NBA, I'm kind of pumped just for the novel nature of it. Like it's brand new. And it's going to be a little funky, but I'm here for it. So there you go. New in-season tournament for the NBA Cup unfolding in what sounds like November and December. Like, that's the other piece of it. I can't tell how long it goes on. You can go Google and read 20 different articles and still walk away extremely confused about how this thing is going to function. Like, are they taking a full fucking month off? Really, like when I was reading a few minutes ago, that's what it seemed like. And that seems like a big month. I mean, I guess that's why they have to have the games count toward the regular season total. Anyway, that will do it for today's show. But remember, new hotline, 888-203-2339. Call it, save it in your phone. Banging the Can hotline, 888-203-2339. Share your take, give your question, whatever. You got 2 minutes. Be somewhere I can hear you. Be succinct. Keep it short. Keep it concise. And I'll play the best calls on the show and respond to them. Remember, every episode of Banging the Can is available on youtube.com/@bangingthecan. I appreciate those of you who are already subscribed and watching every episode instead of just listening. No hard feelings if you're just a podcast person who wants to listen to the show. But if you would, go subscribe on youtube.com/@bangingthecan anyway, if you feel like going the extra mile in support of your favorite Houston sports program. On that note, please share the most unapologetic Houston sports show in existence with your friends and family. Support our sponsors. This week's sponsor, birddogs.com, code BTC at checkout for that free Yeti-style tumbler with every order. What else? Oh, I saw that they did something with all the mascots at MLB All-Star Weekend today for leading up to the game tonight. And Orbit got mercilessly booed by a bunch of children, so he trolled them with a box of Kleenex like cry, which I found to be admirable. I'm a big Orbit fan, and Clutch the Bear. I love our mascots, minus Toro. Toro sucks, but the other two are great. I just can't get behind the Texans mascot for some reason. He's too self-serious looking, whereas Clutch the Bear and Orbit are both portly and friendly and goofy as hell and very entertaining to me. Check out my media startup, Bolin Media, at bolinmedia.com. My comedy show, The Ross Bolin Podcast, available wherever you listen to Banging the Can. Follow us on TikTok at Banging the Can, as well as on Twitter and Instagram and Threads if you're a threader. I am Ross Bolin. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram and Threads at WRBolin, Bolen. I will be back soon. Enjoy the game tonight. Go Astros in the back half of this season. Until next time, H-Town, stay down.